Well, welcome everyone. It is fantastic to have you join us from all around the world, actually. Welcome to our coaching cafe. My name is Natalie Ashdown from Open Door Coaching, and I am joined by the absolute superstar Emma Doyle, who's joining us from Denver, Colorado. Hi, Em. Welcome,
Hi,
welcome.
hi.
We have been loving these series of webinars that we've done around what makes a great coach. And today we're going after resilience. And our theme is it's more than just bouncing back. So I can't wait to delve into your insights around the book, around resilience. Before we begin, let me just acknowledge the traditional owners, the custodians on the lands on which we're all meeting today, and their continuing connection to the land, waters, and communities of Australia and international Indigenous or Torres Strait Islander people. We pay our respects to them and to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And if you extend our acknowledgement to our international guests as well, whether you're listening to this live on the Coaching Cafe, or perhaps you're listening to this on the podcast. So enjoy. So, Emma, today we're talking about resilience. We're going to pick up some stories, some research, some questions from the book. I have read this chapter. Okay, so I know that we wrote the book. I wrote the book with you, but I read this chapter often, actually, and I have been reflecting on it myself, kind of an out of body experience. But so we'll be talking about resilience today. We are all about creating a community. We're about sharing learned experiences, having thought provoking conversations. And for those of you that are interested, yes, there are ICF CCUs available at the end of the session. So please feel free, everyone, to interact with us via the chat box. We'll be picking up your comments and your thoughts and your insights. We really appreciate this and that it's interactive. And so welcome to the new people to our webinar and to our coaching podcast, and welcome back to the people who join us every week. It's just such a pleasure to be here with you. So, Em, shall we launch into our discussion for today? Oh, by the way, the book launch. Let's talk a bit quickly about that. We might as well just get this off our chest. Coming up next Friday, it's the 9th of September in Melbourne at 12 noon during this coaching cafe, and you will be online on Thursday night in Denver, Colorado at 8 p.m. So we will be launching the book. We've got lots of offers, lots of exciting things to talk about. But it is happening. We cannot wait. Alrighty, let me stop my screen share so we can connect. So we can connect here. Let me make sure that hopefully my screen, is it my screen not showing now?
Correct.
Oh, perfect. There we go. I'm back with you. So, Em, firstly, we are 1 week out, as I mentioned, from the official book launch. What Makes a Great Coach has actually hit number 2 on the Amazon bestseller list here in Australia, in the mentoring and coaching category. And we broke into the top 20 in leadership for all leadership books in Australia on the very first day. Um, you can tell that I'm excited, but tell me how you feel, because this has been a project you have worked on for over 5 years now. So tell us how you feel about that when I tell you what's happening.
Well, two emotions come to mind. The first one is relief. Relief, I guess, in many ways that I can actually physically just like even hold the copy in my hands as
Yes,
you
yes,
say.
yes.
So that's number one. And number two, to be honest, I was a little bit shocked. I mean, this whole process is feels like it's every day is a school day, and I think that the fact that personally, yes, we've just let some of our inner circle, of course, buy the book right now, the pre-launch. So to hear that news, I think I was a little bit resiliently shocked. Is that a word? I'm not sure. I think I was like, wow, I can't believe it. I can't wait to, for next week, this time next week. I mean, that I actually just got a little bit, I mean, it is about 35 degrees here at this time of night right now. It's Celsius, of course. Sweaty palms thinking about that, because that's when we're going to tell the world to obviously that, that we are online, even though we're online, just quietly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, Emma, what I have loved, and I know everyone on the line won't mind me saying this at all, is the response that we've got from people all around the world. They are I don't know. I've just been kind of so warmed and heartwarmed by the encouragement and the response and the comments saying, "Of course you're going to be number one," and it's just like it's actually this lovely opportunity to celebrate. And I know that we have that across the Open Door Coaching alumni, and you have that across all the people that you work with all around the world. But there is something so nice just to lift each other up and just be in the moment and celebrate. So I extend my gratitude to you and to all the whole alumni for allowing us just to do that and be excited. How nice, to be able to do that.
Yeah, and the other thing that I just want to acknowledge right back at you is that, like most things in life, these opportunities don't happen unless you are a part of a team. And
Mm.
all the steps that have been along the way is teamwork has really helped me be more resilient. So I appreciate you, Nat, and everything that you've done throughout the steps, especially when I've been in tears, which has been more than once along the way, just being honest. So just,
Yeah.
thank you for that. And the other thing that I want to acknowledge in you is your competitive spirit. Who knew? I mean, I'm as competitive as they come when I've got a ball and a bat in my hand, so to speak. But I love the competitive drive to help us get to where, what our goal is.
Yes, I was talking to Emma that I quite suppressed my competitive spirit actually. But when I noticed that some free audio book was beating us on Amazon, I'm like, we have to knock that book off its perch. So
Nice, nice.
anyway, the alumni will come together and we'll see what we can do. All right, enough about that. Let's talk. So thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement. It's very exciting. Let's talk about practice number 10, resilience. Look, I really do feel that this chapter evokes a lot of self reflection. As I mentioned, I have been reflecting a lot on this chapter because of what we have to do to bring this book to fruition. But I do resonate with Darren Cahill's quote, and he's our front pitcher for this. And yourself and Tina and Darren are our front pitcher. His quote that he says, "I think anyone can coach in sport when things are going well. That's the easy part. But when things are difficult, how do you address those issues?" And it actually, quite a few years ago now, a CEO said something very similar to me. He said, "Anyone can lead a team during the good times, but it's the genuine leaders that stand up during the difficult times." So, Emma, could you share with us what are your reflections on those quotes and those ideas?
Yeah, well, I think great coaches are very vulnerable. And when I interviewed Darren Cahill, he was very vulnerable in sharing the time when he worked with Simona Halep and her coming off a very difficult loss. I mean, imagine losing a Grand Slam final and then your traditional way of coaching, he wanted to push harder and he wanted to really get in there and really be a real, what he called, a leader in the times of need, when really that was not what she needed. And it took actually their physical trainer, he says this in the podcast, tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I think you're pushing a little too hard and we need to readdress the culture of the team." And he took on that feedback. And I think great coaches take on feedback, as hard as it is to hear, because he thinks he's doing the right thing, right? But in that moment, he was really able to, as a team, not just for her to work on her resilience to be able to get back up, but to be strong, stay smart, keep fighting. And they had a little quote, which was "Be Simo." Be Simo. Like something as simple as a little mantra for her, not to be like everybody else, but for her to find her own uniqueness and be that and be true to that. And I thought that took a lot of courage for him to acknowledge and accept, hey, I am pushing too hard, because especially even with the Romanian culture, he talks about how they multiply everything by 10. So if you say that's not good enough, then multiply 10 extra negative situations or comments or internal dialogue on top of that. So I love the fact that they were able to turn things around, and then they were able to win a Grand Slam together. And so I really respect that. I love the way he commentates, even on the US Open right now, the way he's very honest. And I think that's another great quality of great coaches. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, there's two things that are coming up for me. One is the resilience of the player, but then the other thing is the resilience of the coach to bring out the best in the people that they're working with. And when I think about the workplace and the managers that we're coaching as well, that comes up for me. So the manager as a coach needs to call upon their skills, their strengths, their resources to coach their teams. And then the teams need to call upon their resilience. And we hear quite a lot about that. We hear managers say, oh, my team needs to be more resilient. They just need to, you know, get on with it, these kind of things. But actually, it's calling on our own resilience as leaders, as managers, as coaches, and then bringing that out of the people we coach with too. So that's what I'm hearing in your story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because everyone also has emotions, don't they? I mean,
Mm,
I was working
mm.
with a client just recently. They said we have this thing at work called the suggestion box, and I keep putting suggestions in, but no one ever gets back to them. So all of those, I know that sounds really silly, but it's something that happened this week that I thought is really relevant, because just by acknowledging that person and helping them and the company move forward, I think is really important.
Sorry, there'll be some of us that on the line that might be chuckling with that example because we used to say uh, a suggestion box is where good suggestions go to die. So,
Well,
so
that's what my
and
coachee was
and
saying. Hmm.
and rather than your suggestions going to die in a suggestion box, it's about taking responsibility, being accountable, not just to make the suggestion, but actually to bring to bring that suggestion to fruition as well. So
Yeah.
that's where the coaching can kick in as well. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
thanks, Emma. So we headlined this coaching cafe that resilience is just it's more than just bouncing back. And I really do feel, and we talked about this a lot, you and I, and we included those stories in the book as well. But I think this is where tennis and elite sport has a lot to offer the corporate world and corporate coaching. And you share a story in here around Roger Federer and Serena Williams only winning 55% of their points, but still being world number one. So can you tell us more about what elite tennis and elite sports can really offer the corporate world when it comes to resilience? And everyone
Yeah.
on the line, feel free to engage in the conversation as well.
Yeah. So let me just clarify the statistic. So it was
Mm,
back in 2016 where both Roger Federer, he finished one. I think Serena finished three in the world, but they won a crazy amount of matches that year. So they won, I think it was between 80 to 90% of all the matches. So I love asking people the question, if you're winning that amount of matches, how many points do you think you're losing? And people say, well, they
mm,
must have only lost 10 or 20%, right?
mm,
But they're actually coming second in the rally 45% of the time. That's almost half the points that they're playing. They're coming second. And and I think that is something that elite sports can teach us, because it's very easy to watch Serena, the great, and see her win point. You think, oh, she must be winning point after point after point because it's 6-1, 6-2. But tennis is a game where, like, a score line like 6-4, 6-4 is a difference of 4 points. So
mm,
that's what tennis can teach us, in terms of, it's not just our ability to bounce back once, but it's our ability to bounce back time and time and time again. How
mm,
quickly, I like to say, can you get over yourself so you can get on with yourself? Because that's the only
mm,
person you can control in the workplace. And I think that is important to note, that not everything is going to go your way. So being able to understand how long you need to hold on to something, which again wraps into ego, a little bit like what we spoke about earlier, for
mm.
you to then be able to focus on what it is that you need to, especially from a future-based perspective. What is it that we want here? So moving forwards, what solutions or outcomes can we foresee in the future, so we can return to the present, execute and deliver? What are your thoughts on that, Natalie?
Yeah, I agree. It's so it's not just bounce back. What I'm hearing you say, it's not dwelling on what's happened, but that continuous cycle of well, in tennis, it's that continuous cycle of winning those critical points. So just continue, continue to continue. You talk about moments of resilience, and that
I do.
really resonated with me. That it's like a whole combination of little resilient moments rather than one big one. Is
Yeah.
what I'm picking up on.
And the other story that comes to mind that isn't in the book, but this is the beauty of a webinar, is
Mm,
Tiger Woods in golf talks about the 3-step principle. So yeah, golf, it's not always easy to hit that great shot, but you've got 3 steps to then be able to, great players. And Nick Bollettieri said this as well. When they miss an easy shot, they're like, I know I can make that, right? But for 3 seconds or 3 steps, and then all that energy is turned into the future. Now, much easier said than done, but imagine in the workplace when you can adopt a micro moment of resiliency. You can
mm.
say, okay, that's happened, not great, accept it, and how fast can you actually move on and move forwards?
Yeah, it's the speed I think that is the thing that's coming to me. Because in tennis, if you and we as we say in the book, if you dwell on the last point, you're never going to be successful. Your mindset is still in the last point, but you need to turn that around in less than 25 seconds, really, before you do the next serve. The other thing that comes up for me is that in the workplace, it's very easy. We might, have something happen. We'll hold a meeting. We'll hold a meeting this afternoon. We'll book some time together. We can reflect on it. We can prepare for the meeting. So in the workplace, in the corporate workplace, we often get a lot more time. But I think this is where those micro moments come into it that we can move on a lot quicker than we need to. And you talk a lot also, Emma, about reinforcing each other's strengths. So in the book, you talk about reinforcing your strengths to actually bring your resilience. So not just, oh, let's all bounce back, get over it. It's like, no, what are we calling upon in terms of our strengths in order to demonstrate resilience and bounce back? So can you tell us a bit more about that and perhaps other tips you have as well?
Yeah. Well, as you know, practice 2 is belief. And
Mm,
one of the exercises within practice 2 is to be able to understand what your inner strengths are. So those
mm,
3 inner strengths, because when your threshold is challenged, if you can't fall back on those, even just those 3 fundamental core things, then your threshold will erupt or it'll break. And that's when you end up going down the rabbit hole, and it's much harder. It takes a lot longer to be able to get back to where you need to be. So it is critical. And I've even had one of my young mentees, he was the first one to review our book already, which was wonderful. And he is just a fantastic coach, young guy. And even he said, Emma, I had to consult 5 people, as you suggested in the book, because what my I didn't know what my strengths were. And I was like, what? There's so much brilliance within his coaching ability. So I was really surprised to hear that. And a good reinforcement that we have to be each other's cheerleaders when our
mm,
threshold is challenged, to help build resiliency, to help us build layer upon layer is the way that I like to describe it, as it
mm,
relates to when someone challenges you or there's a challenging situation, that you have that baseline. Because in elite sport as well, we have to remember that in this chapter, even Patrick Mouratoglou suggests that most uh, top coaches on the tour won't stay with a player for more than a year. So imagine putting
mm.
all your heart and soul and everything into this player, and then you get dumped. Or in the workplace, you start a business that then is not profitable. So if you don't have anything to fall back on, it's very easy to go, well, I'm never going to try that again. And we know the minute we do that, that's where we're on the verge of being successful.
Yeah,
Your thoughts
indeed.
around that?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So we're thinking about, well, how do we bring our strengths? And the other tips that I noted down, which we talked a lot about, were things like, which are very relevant for the corporate workplace and elite sport, and even in our home lives as well. Things like never be down for more than an hour. So yes, you can be upset and have a little rant or whatever. But the amount of time that you spend in that space is critical because of the energy sapping. So the more that we can work on reducing the amount of time there is a critical thing. And I love the quote that you used also, Emma. So that was the first tip. The second one was around acknowledge that there actually will be setbacks, that not everything will go our way or be perfect. And I need to remember this myself. Like I don't know what it is about. I don't expect setbacks. I expect everything to run perfectly, and then we will get a setback. Gee, I don't know. We've had a couple in the last few weeks. I expect everything just to be perfect. But acknowledging that there will be setbacks, not everything will go our way, but what we call upon, and how we call upon our team, um, how we bring in extra resources. So there's a couple of moments we had, and I went. One of my strengths, I think, is around that collaboration and relationship building. I'm like, who can I call upon? And the amazing Callie Irving is on the line as well. And when we needed someone, we called upon another member of our team to come in and assist. So it's not just doing it all ourselves. It's the other tip as well.
Yeah, when you try and take everything on yourself, you're destined to fail. I think. I mean, and that's why relationship building is so important, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day. And the other thing, Natalie, that I wanted to mention is that and this, look, you know what, this is definitely a plug. If you buy 10 copies of the book next Friday, perhaps you've got a team, I'm going to say it, I am, then we've actually created 20 coaching tools in an online course that match each of the practices. So perhaps you've got a team out there, just screenshot your purchase of 10 or more books, go for it, and we'll send you the coaching toolkit. And the reason I bring that up is because I want to talk just briefly about the two tools. The first tool is exactly what we're talking about, micro moments of resiliency. And yes, in the book, I talk about the golf club championships where I had to raise my hair tie. And when I'm, double bogeyed and then triple bogeyed, I had to let out some emotion as I pulled out my hair tie here, and then boom, stop, yelling out stop. So that is one of the tools within this practice 10. And the other tool, I'm so, so grateful that you, in your book, of course, your first book, Bring Out Their Best, you talk about conflict and conflict resolution, which I think in today's world is even more important in the hybrid workplace, because people are avoiding having those conversations, especially over Zoom. They're feeling like it's too hard. They can't build rapport. They run out of time. So they never have these courageous conversations. And you gave me a formula that we created that's our macro resiliency tool within the toolkit, the What Makes a Great Coach toolkit. And one of the things I love about it is to help people get back on the same page, you suggest that you talk about how you've contributed to a situation. So sometimes when we acknowledge how we've contributed to a situation, it brings everybody back on the same page rather than me versus somebody else within a courageous conversation. So I just wanted to give a little plug there because we're 7 days out from launch, and now's the time. Certainly my partners, Emma, you need to step into your greatness. So even I need a little reinforcement and encouragement to say, that this is really important, and there are practical coaching tools that relate to each of the practices.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important because there's so much in the book in terms of how we reflect and the great questions and the stories you offer. And people need to know that there's this whole other opportunity for you to bring all your wealth of knowledge and experience to fruition in the actual tools that we can use. So it's very exciting. It's an absolute amazing opportunity to draw on your wealth of knowledge experience and package that up. So I hope lots of people take advantage of it. So let's just pick up the chat here. We've got Geo says, really relate to this, saying, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we're open to experience challenges and building our resilience. And there's a little part of me that really relates to that. We are vulnerable in those moments, aren't we, Emma? And that's where those tips that you have around calling on our strengths, thinking about how, narrowing the amount of time that we need uh, to get over things, the hair tie flick or the snap or whatever it might be, the anchor that you have there. Um, they're all the parts of resilience. It's not just, oh, bounce back, get over it, you'll be right. But there's lots of parts to it. And I really appreciate there that Gio has offered that being vulnerable and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable is actually part of being resilient. And as you said, allowing ourselves to have those tears or those moments or those doubts, I think as well, like, I don't think I can do this, and then calling upon your strengths. I think that's where resilience comes out for me.
I think I couldn't think of a better topic. 1 week out from our actual book launch, for resiliency to be our practice. And again, just another reason why we called the chapters practices,
Yeah,
because I think that I am practicing resilience at the moment. It feels quite frequently, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, because again, it
yeah.
helps build rapport with the people also that we're coaching, to say, hey, yeah, I struggle with this too, or I do struggle with this. But it's how fast can we find strategies to put in place to be able to move forward.
Yes, and for me, I think I agree. How fast can we find those strategies? And I have to remember, because I get a bit into, and I know there'll be a lot of managers and leaders and coaches on the line who go, you know what, I'll just do it myself. Like, the default is actually resilience equals do it myself. But the more and more we know this from a leadership point of view and from a coaching point of view, it's not actually, and when we're managing teams and the like, it's not actually about doing it ourselves. It's about calling upon resources and the people or the ideas or things around us that can help us bounce back as well. So it doesn't have to be that lonely battle, I think.
Yeah, and I think that we need everyone needs a base camp, whether it be whether you're
Mm,
trying to climb a mountain. I mean, so many beautiful mountains here in Colorado, but you need that base camp. You need to understand who are your cheerleaders and what you can fall back on. Again, when your threshold is challenged, which is one of my mentors in the book, Damien Carmody Stevens. He always used to say, hey, Emma, what are you going to fall back on when your threshold's challenged? What and who, not only what, but who can you fall back on? So I love that about the cheerleader.
And I think just one more thing I'd offer there as well is what I have experienced is that when the threshold is challenged, something better comes from it. So, I think about the editing that we had done on our book when our thresholds were challenged, and it's like, and I sat there and I said to you, Em, this is a rewrite. This is not insignificant what we're talking about, when we wanted to incorporate some of the amazing feedback we'd received. This is a rewrite of the book, and that threatens our thresholds for sure. And then look what we've done. We've got a 2000% better product because of it. So there is something about going to that threshold with our resilience, with our team, as you said, with our base camp team around us, coming back to base camp, and then we can go forward. And I truly believe a better product comes from it. Better product, better person, better insights, better reflections. Um, yeah, it comes from it in the end.
Couldn't
I
agree
laughed.
more.
I laughed nervously because I'm like, oh, I hope anyway.
Well, we hope that you'll all join
We
us
believe it.
next Friday. We believe it.
Yes,
And
yes,
I
yes.
know that the next 7 days, you will be hearing from us as we
Mm,
do our best, bring out our best. Another plug
yeah,
for your amazing book.
thank you.
To just to be resilient and hopefully hit our goals for next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's put it out there. Amazon number one bestseller in our categories in mentoring and coaching. It, it's achievable. The alumni will get behind us. I believe it. Why not? Let's go for it. See how
Yeah,
far we can go. So thank
you
you.
only
And
live
yeah,
once.
Exactly, exactly. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the line. Thanks for being part of it. I've got lots of good lucks coming through. Lots of good lucks coming through, which is really lovely. Thank you. And yeah, I really do believe we're trying to practice what we preach here. You know, we're not just saying, oh, you need to do resilience. Emma and I are actually really practicing that. So thank you everyone for pointing that out as well. So we look forward to seeing you next week on the book launch. Please join us. Bring your coffees, your champagnes, your gin and tonics, whatever you might. And we look forward to celebrating and sharing some more stories with you next week. Thanks
Yeah.
everyone for joining us.
Appreciate everyone's support. See you next week. Thank you.